Alright, let's see, is it actually working on YouTube?
Yeah. Okay, let's see if the audio works.
Yeah, what was it? Audio check.
Yeah, I can hear you on the stream. Everything's fine.
Yep, okay, we're good. Alright, good, no troubleshooting today. And we got a countdown, even better. Alright, hello everybody, and welcome to round 8 of Group 2 here in LSR on this fine Sunday afternoon or evening. Of course, as always, thank you for joining us again here for round 8 in Group 2. And this, of course, is the second of the 4 sprint races that we have scheduled for this season. Of course, 17 drivers on the grid today. Got full wet conditions early on here as the Mercedes looking to get ready to get underway and be the first out on track, as well as McLaren down the pit lane a little bit. But again, as always, thanks, of course, for joining us as regular. I'm the host today. Of course, I'm vacant, and I am joined as well by the all Breached. Breached, if you want to go ahead and say hello.
Hello everybody, happy to join you all watching Group 2. Let's see how they're going.
Of course, it will be a very challenging first go of things here at Silverstone. Of course, we will be having full wet conditions here for this 18-minute qualifying session. But of course, both the sprint and feature races that we are going to have today will both be in dry conditions. So it'll be very interesting to see what the grid for the sprint race is going to end up being. Of course, got all the cars piling out on track, of course, with the Haas of Kev Prod leading the way, so he'll be the first to be getting laps on the board. But of course, taking a look at in the Alpine, who currently lead in the Group 2 Drivers' Championship, the halfway point. Only 7 points clear, though, of Kevin Cow in Mercedes. James 44 as well, or James 443 rather, for Aston Martin is there in third with a decent gap back to drivers such as Alexis Beast, Viprise, and Kev Prod is the battle for fourth. Going to be very close and very interesting throughout the rest of the season, as from fourth down to ninth, only separated by about 12 points. So really interesting to see how those battles pan out as the rest of the season continues.
Yeah, so we see Cav approaching his first fast lap. Is everything going right in this corner? Yes, he keeps all the track limits and he's on his first lap.
And of course, we'll stay on board with the Haas as he makes his way through Abbey for the first time, and of course down into this first hard braking zone of turn number 3. He, of course, down that pit straight. Again, now coming through Chapel now, and out onto the Wellington straight. Of course, going to be very important to be careful on the power, especially here in qualifying, as that back end's going to want to really step out from behind you. And of course, got the run down into Brooklands rather. And of course, going to be trying to just keep it nice and tidy. Keep that apex nice and tight as you go through Luffield and into Woodcut. Of course, now got to run down into Cox. Of course, the major flashpoint of that title battle between Verstappen and Hamilton, dropping down to about 6th gear and just about keeping it on track. And then, of course, you got Maggots and Beckett's now. Of course, again, another place where it's going to be fairly easy to validate laps or make mistakes. Of course, we saw Sainz and Verstappen make mistakes here last year. Now got the blast down the hangar straight into Stowe. We saw many overtakes in the Group 1 race yesterday. Of course, Stowe, again, just another one of those corners where we could see a lot of side-by-side battles here. And now coming down into Vale and Club, these last couple of corners, Haas is going to give way, I believe, to the Mercedes of Viperize, who's going to be the first to put a time up on the board. And as Viperize crosses the line, everybody's going to be chasing that 141.162. So that will be the benchmark for this qualifying session. Oreo coming in there with a 144th.
Still the last corner.
We got the driver who is currently second in the drivers' standings coming around those final couple of corners into the line. So it's Kevin Kaut for Mercedes. Can yesterday's pole sitter in Group 1 challenge his teammate? No, he can't. That's only a 141.8.
Who's there on the lap?
Staying out on track to get as many laps in as possible.
That's Fambu Vega, actually. Let's see if his lap is going to be valid. Nah, not yet.
He will get a time on the board, but it's only 5.5, so probably a mistake early on in that lap for that Alpine driver. If he could jump on board, he does have plenty of fuel in that Drivers' Championship leading Alpine, so definitely keep an eye on that.
Also, going slower. I guess he's going to go for another lap now. Oh. Did he see the Aston Martin's there already? I don't know.
Aston Martin's coming to the line. James made a mistake in that final corner, but it will be Jonah coming to the line now out of those final two corners. As Jonah comes to the line, he'll only go 9th fastest for the moment. Behind him is one of the Williams. That's Jim, who's just wrapping up his outlap, so I'll have to keep an eye on his time. Kev Prod as well coming to the line. He's about a 10th up through those first two sectors. Here comes the Haas, and he improves by 2 seconds and makes the jump up into P5, so a very strong showing early for the Haas. Tommy XFC, meanwhile, he's got about 6 seconds on his first time as he comes to the line a little bit shaky out of those final couple of corners, but he replaces Kev Prod up in P5 as Dodoligo then splits the two Ferrari drivers and at the moment and showing very strong early in this session.
Is Caprod still doing laps? Yes, he is. He's 3/10 faster, actually. Yes. And who's that behind him?
Pushing 3.5 to 4/10 up. So he's already going to be challenging upwards of Tommy XXC, and he seems to be quite comfortable there on the exit. And of course, in the run now down into Cops. In order to keep it tight early and really kind of utilize all the track here all the way through Cops. And keeps it nice and tidy. Let's see, as he crosses that next timing strip in Sector 2, how much he has improved early on here. Very comfortable there, using all that curb on the exit, and he's got 7/10 now. So could be challenging towards his timing.
Caprod right ahead, let's see. He's finishing his lap 7/10 so far, yeah.
Of course, I believe all the drivers behind him as well improving, so it's going to be very interesting to see where Kevprod comes in as he comes out of the final couple of corners at the line, really utilizing all that track, and he'll go 6th for the moment. Let's see. Jodoligo, his teammate behind, is up 3/10, his teammate who's coming up behind is up about 3/10. So we'll have to see as he gets a little bit loose there out of the final corner into the line, and he will stay 4th fastest even after that improvement. Tommy VR, meanwhile, is able to split the Mercedes pairing at the top as he goes 2nd fastest with a 141.5. Though that'll be likely the lap of wet compound tires.
So I think Aston Martin's about to do a lap, but no, he just lost it on the exit. Very difficult here in this full wet conditions. He's got to be very easy on the gas, on the throttle. Yeah, I think he's going to try next lap again. Who else is out
I wouldn't be
there?
surprised to see Joan dive into the pit lane here. It seems to be running a little bit. Seems that everybody's, a lot of drivers probably going to take that last lap. Of course, we've got Crooner to the line. He's got about 3/10, but that's not quite enough to improve into that battle for third. Very, very tight as P3 to P5 separated by less than half a tenth early on here. Again, just about 9 minutes into this qualifying session, so still plenty of time for drivers to improve. And of course, we're probably going to see a lot of drivers coming in to put some more fuel back in the car and maybe slap on a fresh set of wet compound tires before coming back out.
And we're on board with Bamboo Vega. I think this lap is quicker than his first one so far. Let's see how he manages to react. Looking clean, staying in fifth gear. 5/10
Up
quicker.
half.
Yeah.
There's certainly going to be looking to be enough to challenge his teammate of Tommy XC, but can he improve any further in these last couple of corners to potentially boost that time even further? Of course, your championship leader at the moment. Here he comes out of the final couple of corners. Seems to be nice and comfortable on the power there. Up 8/10 and up into P4, so it's enough to jump up ahead of Kevin Cal, as Kevprod as well up into third. The strong showings from Haas, Mercedes, and Mercedes, Ferrari, and Alpine in particular at this point in the qualifying session.
Oh, Crooner is on a quick lap. Going
P2. As that's enough to go second fastest, and certainly couldn't have potentially another lap in the tank, though it seems that he's lifting off this lap. We'll have to keep an eye on that Ferrari to potentially challenge for pole. Though it is still Viperized.
He's with a purple middle sector. He's so far he's quicker than Viperized. I think that could be a pole lap if he keeps it here on the track.
Kevin Cal, meanwhile, I believe I just had the pop of 8/10, so
yeah. Is it gonna work?
Do any better? No, not quite.
How
That's only
close?
second fastest.
I think Viperized did his pole lap, I mean, so far pole lap, on his first try, if I'm correct.
I believe so as well, if I'm not mistaken. But of course, still 6 minutes left to go in the session, so plenty of time for him to improve. So it may not be on this lap. Of course, he's making his way through Sector 3 right now. Of course, your provisional pole sitter for the sprint is just going to dive into the pit lane, so he'll probably just put, again, a little bit more fuel back into the car and have that one last flying run. I guess going down the grid seems that seems to be the strategy for a lot of drivers at the moment. The only driver in the top 8 really on track and kind of pushing right now is Tommy XXC, who's got plenty of fuel in that car, so plenty of time to try and figure out a rhythm to the track. Though he is bouncing all over the place a little bit, at least on my screen, so hopefully that connection doesn't remain an issue. Of course, Alpine going to be wanting to continue in their push for the over Mercedes, again, largely spearheaded by Bamboo Vegas' push for the driver standings. But of course, it has been supported. Bamboo Vegas has been very, very nicely supported by Tommy XXC, as well as other reserve drivers who have jumped in to fill slots from time to time. Of course, if you're watching and new to LSR and are potentially interested in taking part in any of these races in the future, definitely go ahead and let us know in the chat as of right now. We'd love to have you for any of our groups. Of course, we do have a couple of full-time seats available at the moment and a couple of groups. So depending on your availability, and your pace, you may be able to just jump right into a full-time seat. But even if not, definitely don't hesitate to join anyways. Of course, we'll be continuing league racing into the new game cycle as soon as that releases, so definitely stay tuned for that. And as well, you can always jump in as we tend to have a number of reserves open on any given race weekend. So definitely, if you're interested in joining for league racing action in the future, don't hesitate to let us know down there in the live chat or in the comments down below, and we'd be happy to get you set up with an invite link.
Hello to Tim, who wishes good luck to all the drivers out there.
Of course, it's Tommy BR on a lap at the moment. He's up 3/10, so the Ferrari could be challenging for pole here as we approach the 3.5 minute to go mark. So just 3 corners left to go for the Ferrari. Again, up 3/10 early, which is enough to be close. He just needs to pull about another tenth and a half in this final sector. Can he keep that Ferrari under him in these tricky Silverstone conditions and potentially put that Ferrari on pole? Yes, he can. That's and we're in to the 141 Heroes, courtesy of Tommy BR. Puts that Ferrari on provisional pole position. Just about 3 minutes left to go.
Awesome how close those drivers are in the full wet conditions. There is so much opportunity for mistakes. You need to be so careful. But they managed such close laps. That's incredible.
First, we got a number of drivers getting ready to start their laps.
I think Rice just started one. Let's see if he can.
If I'm not mistaken, he did. He's got to watch out for that traffic there coming out of the pit lane. Had to dodge out of the way both a Red Bull and an Alfa Romeo early there. We're sitting on board with the man who was on provisional pole up until just about a minute ago after having that first lap be enough for provisional pole early in this session. We've got an Alpine that he's got to chase down right in front of him, and he's up just about a tenth through that first sector. Of course, Mercedes still keeping it nice and tidy here.
Bamboo right behind him. Also on a quick lap.
Of course, now in the run down to Cops. Of course, still plenty of time left for numerous drivers to potentially get a lap in. Keep an eye on drivers like Kevin Cow, like Crooner, like Bamboo Vegas. Really put competitive lap times on the board here in the dying moments of this session. Of course, 1 minute 30 seconds left to go, and Viper Eyes up 2 tenths now on that early lap. Kevin Cow's teammate, meanwhile, is still in third. I switched over to him quickly, and I thought he was up by a little bit more. Of course, Viper Eyes now into these final couple of corners at this very treacherous Silverstone circuit. As he comes to the line, of course, he'll have the Alpine in front of him. Bamboo Vegas goes 6th quickest, and Viper Eyes jumps up onto the pole, and we're now into the 140s with a 140.776, courtesy of Viper Eyes, who steals that provisional pole position right back.
He's got a Ferrari out there, that's Crooner, but he's down this attempt. So maybe he can find some time in the last corner. Let's see if he tries.
Still down a tenth through 2 sectors as well. Of course, he'll have one more shot at a push lap, as he should get to the line in 30 seconds. But looking at drivers really starting to get their last laps in, first of whom will likely be some guy in the Williams with about 20 seconds left to go now. So, of course, the Williams now into that final sector as yellow flags popping up all over the place. And let's see, as we got 5 seconds left to go. So this will be the start of the final laps of qualifying. So some guy will be first across the line for and will only end quickest. Oreo African goes 14th fastest. The Mercedes of Kevin Cow will not improve. He invalidated his lap. Tommy BR, meanwhile, is going to be able to improve by about a tenth and a half, but that's not going to be quite enough to take the battle to Viper Eyes. The Haskell, meanwhile, will be the next across the line, as they both will dive into the pit lane, so they will not improve on the laps. Bamboo Vegas, meanwhile, currently sits P6 and seems to be really way. Here comes the Alpine out of the final couple of corners. Can Bamboo Vegas improve at all from P6? It does not appear that he will. So he will start only 6th. Here comes Omega in the Alfa Romeo now. Can Omega jump up from P12 Of course, out of the final corner and to the line, he will only go 12th fastest. Jim now out of the final couple of corners. He was about 3/4 of a second on that early lap and almost dropping it out of that final corner. He'll jump ahead of Omega and go 12th quickest. And then James, of course, is 15th. Crooner, meanwhile, up 2/10 early. He and Tommy XXC, of course, will be the last to cross the line now. Crooner for Ferrari, can he jump up ahead of his teammate Tommy BR? Or could he even challenge for pole position? Here comes Crooner now out of the final corner and to the line. A little bit wide there, and it's enough for third. Tommy XXC, meanwhile, as well, will start 8th. And there is your starting grid for this Silverstone sprint here today.
Unbelievable. On the last lap, still there was the opportunity for Crooner to get on pole. Didn't quite manage so, but goes for P3, and we're gonna go into the sprint race with this grid. This is gonna be amazing.
And of course, should be very, very competitive, and again, very challenging for all these drivers to manage the conditions with more dry weather focused setups. But of course, you got Mercedes, Ferrari, Mercedes. But it should be a nice four-way battle, at least based on this qualifying session between Mercedes, Ferrari, Haas, and Alpine, all taking up those top 8 positions. So definitely keep an eye on that in the sprint race, which will get underway in just a few seconds. Of course, so we'll have 9 laps around Silverstone again before that, I believe, 26th lap feature race for the full points. Of course, definitely, if you haven't done so already, definitely take the chance to go down below this video and hit that like button. Definitely as well, hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so already. Of course, definitely looking to make that push to crack 120 subs, as we're very close to that point. But as always, thank you for all the support you give us, and definitely looking forward to continuing growing the league both with you and keep providing you exciting content almost every week. Of course, we'll have our season break next week, and then we'll be back with more racing action. I believe the second week of April. So definitely stay tuned for that. As you know, we obviously got the second half of the LSR season getting underway just at that point. Of course, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 lights. And we are underway for the sprint here at Silverstone. And it seems that Tommy BR with a good start compared to Viperize, as that Ferrari right up the inside and is taking the lead into turn 1. Red Bull a bit wide, but it's Ferrari 1-3. Viperize now down the inside. Can the Mercedes make a stick? Not quite. As a number of drivers seemingly falling down the order, as Crooner looks to go up the inside of Viperize into turn 3, a little bit tight there, and potentially a little bit of contact, and Crooner gets past Viperize as well. Here comes Kevin Cal on his teammate as they come down the straight for the first time, and it will be Kevin Cal going down the inside of his Mercedes teammate, but it's Tommy leading early here on lap 1.
There was some trouble in the back. I tried to see what's happening. I think Formula Jonah was losing lots of places. I'm not so sure yet.
So it does seem that everybody has gotten out relatively unscathed, even with a little bit of contact. And of course, that gap at the front at about half a second. But it's the Ferraris followed by the Mercedes, followed by the Alpine, and here comes Tommy XXC right on the gearbox of his teammate. He's going to look right to the inside now. As well as Viperize taking a peek to the inside of his teammate. So Tommy XXC going down the inside, and he's going to get that overtake done on Bamboo Vega here early in the sprint.
So far, no gaps opening. Only on P15, Omega is second behind, but he already closed the gap again. So we got one whole train.
The gap, the field separated by less than 17 seconds. Of course, got 17 drivers on the grid for this sprint. And of course, going to have some very tight battles and hopefully some nice clean racing throughout. As, of course, no DRS is going to be available until the start of lap 3. as Alexis Beast and some guy swap places here as the Red Bull, I believe, as the Red Bull just losing out a little bit. Of course, he's going to be now under threat from that Aston Martin of James, who's going to go up the inside. Meanwhile, Tommy XXC with a big mistake there, and he's going to drop all the way down to the back of the pack. He's now down into 16th and almost towards the back, so a mistake there from the Alpine, potentially as a result of a battle with his teammate. So is that Alpine friendly fire? That'll certainly be something for the stewards to take a look at later. As we have a side-by-side now through Maggots and Beckett's between McLaren and Red Bull, and it's going to be Speedy Gunner being able to hold it as Kendrick's having to really have a compromised line there. He's going to fall all the way back to 9th. And of course, he's going to be side-by-side with Dodoligo as both of them get a nice run on the... all looking like 3 wide for a second. But it seems that the Red Bull going to be able to defend for now. I got Kendrick looking now down the outside of Speedy Gunner. Of course, very similar scenes to what we saw in Silverstone this year, and it's going to be Speedy Gunner holding P7 with Kendricks in 8th. James, meanwhile, making moves early in 11th, and he's round. James is round out of the final corners. We do have DRS and potentially just some dirty air there. But of course, jumping back up to the front, this battle is going to really heat up now. With DRS being available for all drivers.
Yeah, Kruner needs to stay within the second behind Tommy. He was already 9/10 down, so it was very close that he got DRS, but he got it and he's back 5/10 behind him. Let's see if he can maintain that throughout the lap and stay behind him and maybe get a gap in between the Ferraris and the Mercedes, because Kevin Kell needs to do the same with Kruner. Yeah, it's about staying within the DRS window, saving some of your tires.
Of course, certainly don't have to worry quite as much about tires here in the sprint race. It'll certainly be something interesting to watch in the feature races. DRS now wide open for Kruner as that gap coming down was about 6/10 at the start of the straight. It's now down to about 4/10. As Tommy goes round, Tommy drops it. The big mistake from the race leader is going to drop him down to 6th and potentially further as he was second off the grid, but is now down at 8th and is going to be under threat from Jim's Willie Alma. Now leave Kruner and Kevin now to duel at the...
Wow, yeah. 3 guys already lost lots of places. We see Jonah and Tommy now. Tommy XXC also lost a couple of places, so the good news is Alexis, he gained 6 places already. He's in P11. Kendricks gained 10 places, wow, from P16 to P6 in 4 laps. That's an amazing sprint race for him. Well, we're going into Cops with Kevin. He's staying close to Kruner. He's gonna have DRS after the S's. While Tommy is also very close. I think that's even closer than Kevin. Let's see if he can come back to the top where he started. Not yet. Oh, but here we got something. Alexis also passed Jim, which makes him gaining 8 places.
As Kruner receives a 3-second time penalty for track limits. Of course, that'll be very important here in the sprint with the pack really not separated by all that much and not a lot of time to really grow that gap. So as of right now, it would be a Mercedes 1-2 in the sprint after that 3-second penalty. So Kruner is going to have to really get on his horse if he wants to try and pull away. But of course, Kevin and Viperize both with DRS advantage.
I'm wondering if Jonah got some damage on his car from his incident in the first lap, because he seems not to find some pace.
There doesn't appear to be any visual damage on that Aston Martin as he looks up the inside of Oreo Africa, and he might be able to get him on the exit and the run down into Cops because those two cars are very, very close. Though Jonah not seeming to get quite as good of a run, but is going to stay nice and close to that car.
Oh, he's coming very close. He's got him.
That's a nice move there from the Aston Martin as he's able to make that move before getting into Maggots and Beckett's. Meanwhile, up the front, Crooner, as it stands, with that gap just over a second here at the end of lap number 5. About to see if he can now look to take advantage as he has broken that DRS as we start lap number 6, so about 2/3 of the way through the sprint at the car. Granted, so has Kevin Cal. So let's see if the Ferrari can pull away now. Of course, he needs about a second and a half over the next couple of laps if he wants to be able to retain that P1 at the end of the sprint.
Now let's see if Kendrickson can still defend his P6. The illegal is all over him. Got the DRS, but it doesn't look like it's time yet for him.
Doesn't look like he's going to get it here, but that Haas pulling up really close. But of course, Dodoligo having to be under threat from Tommy VR, who showed a lot of pace throughout this race. Of course, that mistake just about a lap and a half ago. So Tommy is going to want to look to get past the Haas of Dodoligo very, very quickly here.
Oh yeah, right.
We'll have to keep an eye on that as yellow flag. I believe that's a Williams spun round. So I believe that was some guy making a mistake there. But Crooner continuing to open that gap just by a little bit, up to now 1.8 seconds. So still needs to pull a little bit more time from Kevin Cal but does seem to be on pace to try and secure P1. But it's going to definitely come down to the wire.
Kendrick driving the inside line, defending, still ahead of Dodoligo, but it's super close now.
We might be under threat. He may be under threat here into turn 3 as the Haas going to look down the inside. He's going to have a little peak there, but he's going to hold back for the moment, just to try and get a better run here onto this DRS straight. Of course, he will have DRS here, that gap much closer than it's been the past couple of laps, and of course wide open on the back of the Haas. Here comes Dodoligo. He's going to look to the outside as Kendrick's defends hard to that inside line, and he's able to keep the Haas behind for the moment. Tommy, meanwhile, pushing that Haas through this section of corners, and is now potentially going to have a run into Cops, but again, not quite. He's just going to have to back off just a little bit in order to try and keep that battle going cleanly.
Yeah, many people managed to pull out a gap in between the cars, but James is fighting some guy now.
It's Dodoligo with a 3-second time penalty, so that'll be very, very crucial. Of course, Alexis behind him with 6 seconds of time penalties already, so penalties proving that they could be a very big factor as we make our way into the feature races. Even just 8 laps in, there's penalties all up and down the grid. But of course, that gap at the front now up to 2.1 seconds. So again, Turner just entering that gap out little by little. Though he certainly needs to that momentum, as he needs another about 0.8 from here to the end in order to secure P1, and that 8 points from winning the sprint. But of course, showing very, very strong pace.
The 3 here is still fighting for a position, very close to each other. Kendrick still defending his P6. Unbelievable so far for him.
Of course, you also have Alexis Beast coming onto this battle in the Red Bull. Of course, he's going to be looking to push and potentially take advantage of any mistakes. Of course, he's going to have to keep pulling away from Jim, who could just as easily steal that position here with 2 laps to go. Meanwhile, up at the front, Kevin Cal, I believe, with a mistake there, potentially through Maggots and Beckett, as that gap has increased by a lot, and that Crooner has gotten a very, very strong exit down onto this back straight. It's now just about 1 lap to go. And Croon just needs about 2/10 in order to retain that P1. So Ligo again going to be looking now to the outside of Kendricks as they come into the boot the end to end the lap. Going to tuck back in behind, potentially just try to again get that better exit, but he's going to run a little bit wide out onto the sausage, and that's going to lose him a little bit of time. So the Haas just not quite able to find a way around the McLaren as we do start the final lap.
Viperize could manage to get into the DRS range, but still, if that's enough on the last lap, oh, they're still fighting.
Hendricks and Dodolio still going at it, so really tooth and nail there. But Crooner up in front has been able to get that gap up over 3 seconds. Hendricks and Dodolio once again side by side, and Haas going to have the outside line now. Is he going to finally be able to make that move stick? Not quite, and Haas now potentially under threat from the Ferrari. As you can see, the two pushing each other again. Haas going to look down the inside into Cops, perhaps. They are going to go side by side briefly through Cops, with the McLaren still able to defend. And here comes Dodolio and Alexis, and Dodolio still able to defend. And there's 4 cars, there's 3 cars, 4 cars separated by less than a second. So we'll have to keep an eye on that battle as it comes to a close. But up at the front, it does seem that it will be Crooner briefly, as that was Viperize making a mistake. He spun out of the final corner, chasing down his teammate. So it will be Crooner win the sprint here at Silverstone. It'll be Kevin just shy of taking P2. Bamboo Vegas, meanwhile, will finish in 3rd. Kevprod will finish 4th. Viperize, after that late spin, comes to finish 5th. Kendricks is able to hold Dodoligo and Alexis as Tommy receives a massive time penalty for ignoring yellow flags. I don't know how that affected him.
Who got that penalty?
Tommy BR received 20 seconds for ignoring yellow flags. So, as penalties, really just being thrown all over.
How did he even drop down? I didn't see it. What happened? He dropped down to 12.
I believe he got a number of time penalties for overtaking under yellow flags.
Oh, I saw the Red Bull spinning out on the finish line, and maybe that caused yellow flags, and he overtook somebody, and then the race finished, and now he got all those time penalties. If that's the case, it's really unlucky for him, and maybe the stewards will have to have a look at it if that was actually just.
Possibly, but that'll be something that definitely goes to review.
But that's going to be difficult since that now influences his starting position in the race. Because now he's starting in P12.
Yeah, so sadly I don't think we're going to get the chance to review that.
But here we got the starting grid for the race now. We got Crooner on pole, we got Kevin on P2, Bamboo Vegas starts on the 2nd row with Kevin Prod. Viperize still on P5, Kendricks on P6, very strong sprint for him, and let's see how the race is gonna end up. Yeah, Chimp writes in the comments, Kendricks is one of the best defenders I've seen. That Haas ain't going nowhere, he's writing. Yeah, that was really nice, seeing how he defended for like 5 laps, or I think it might have been the whole race. Against Dodoligo, he tried all of his best, but Dodoligo didn't find the way past him.
It was a very large part of that sprint race. Of course, 15 seconds until the 26 lap feature race going to get underway. So, of course, we'll probably see a little bit more strategy now come into play. Of course, definitely keep an eye on a number of drivers, including a couple of those drivers who are going to be fighting back through the grid. All right, and here we go. 3, 4, and 5 lights. And once again, we're underway here in Silverstone. And once again, the driver in P2 gets a much better start, and Kevin Cal takes the lead into turn 1. Bamboo Vegas, a bit of a slower start, but he's able to retain 3rd. Kendricks in 4th. Viperize and Kevprod taking advantage. That's a Williams spun round at the back. That's some guy with a mistake here on the opening lap, so he's going to fall right off the pack. But of course, early, it's now Kevin Cal with a quick breakaway here on lap number 1 of 26. And you can see the cars fanning out behind as they come down the back straight. It looked like 3 wide there for a second as Viperize and Kendricks go side by side. Of course, Viperize is going to now be looking around the outside. There's Alexis Beast there in 6th. He's going to have a play on those soft compound tires. Of course, a number of different tire choices. Alexis Beast looking up the inside now of Viperize. Down on Cops, a Red Bull and a Mercedes side by side, but the Red Bull has that inside line and is able to take advantage as a lot of drivers running wide there at Cops on these cold tires. Of course, Alexis Beast is going to be looking to take full advantage of those softs early in the race. Of course, taking a look at some of those driver compounds. Kevin Cow on the mediums, Crooner and Bamboo Vegas on the hards, Speedy Gunner and Alexis Beast both opting for softs, both the Haas opting for hards, and then everybody else going for the mediums on this first stint of the race.
Yeah, Kendricks just continuing where he ended on the sprint race. He's up to P4 now. Unbelievable still. And let's see how he can cling on to Bamboo on the hard tires. I think he'll be able to stay with him.
Tommy BR with a nice recovery early as well, but he's in a nice little duel with Viperize as they go side by side through those final corners, but Viperize is able to take that position back and move back up into P6.
Alexis all over the back of Kendricks now.
And he's going to go down the inside there on the exit, so a little bit of a switchback there. Of course, hard braking, going to have a little pinch of Kendricks to the outside, a little bit of contact, but able to keep it under control. Contact again. Is that McLaren going in really hot, but Alexis Beast able to hold that position down and can now go chasing after Bamboo Vegas.
Yeah, at the beginning we lost James again. He went down to P13. I don't know where he started, but it seemed like he was in some incident. Tommy XXC also. I don't know what happened there.
Of course, we can take a look at that position change graphic. A couple of the big winners. Tommy XXC up 6 positions off the start, so potentially being victim of that weird issue with the yellow flags early as James and Speedy Gunner swap places. Tommy BR as well, a big winner. He's up 5 spots early, as well as Alexis Beast, as he's picked up four positions early on in this race as Kevin Cal sets that fast lap. And Omega gives us that first penalty of the race. He's going to dive into the pit lane, as well as get a 5-second penalty for speeding, just as DRS gets enabled here on lap number 3.
Yeah, Alexis, he's managed to get past Kendricks and he's now behind Bamboo Vegas. Bamboo Vegas is on the hard tires, if we take a look at the tires. And Alexis on the soft, so he has a massive tire advantage still on lap 3. So let's see if he can turn that into an overtake. And then afterwards he could close the gap to Crooner and see how far he gets on those softs. I think they're gonna last around 7-8 laps, and on the last laps they're gonna be not that fast anymore, but now he's still got the advantage, and let's see.
Of course, tire wear pretty high around this circuit, and as well, let's be kind of struggling to kind of be able to have a chance to overtake Bam in the corner. He had a peek up the inside there, as he's going to be able to make the stick now with that gap just under 2 tenths. Not quite. He's going to have to hold station 4 now, but he's really, really close to the back of that Williams, or that Alpine, rather.
Okay, we see Omega and some guy got already time penalties, and Omega already stopped already, so I think he had damage.
There's some guy retiring from the session. That Williams should stay out of the way of our leaders. Of course, Lightspeed's almost to the run there on Bamboo Vegas, but not quite having enough to make the run there. Of course, both drivers still with DRS, and of course they're coming through that yellow section of the track where there are those yellow flags from the retirement. Meanwhile, behind Viperize and Kendricks, once again going at it. So can the Mercedes try and do what the Haas couldn't? And that's a mistake from Bamboo Vegas. So I don't know whether that was under power or due to contact, but Bamboo Vegas, the championship leader, is going to fall down into P10 and P11 as there goes Jim around the outside, and as they go into Cops, the Williams is going to be able to hold that last point scoring position for the moment. Though, of course, that Alpine's going to be all over the back of him as this continues, but that does leave Alexis Beast currently in third, and the chance to go chasing after Crooner and Kevin.
Kendrick's managed to save some batteries so far. He's on 35% if you look at Viperize behind him. Got 20. The top drivers, like Crooner, he managed to save 40%. If we compare all the ERS we have, so the Legal who managed to save a lot. Cav had to spend a lot. Yeah, we see some difference in the approach to the ERS. Let's see if that's gonna end up in some position changes, because if you got a lot more battery, overtaking is much easier.
That certainly would be very crucial as our first real kind of time penalties coming in. So definitely keep an eye on those penalties continuing to roll in as this race continues.
Yeah, I think Alexis already feels like lots of grip on his soft tires on lap 5, but he still manages to get into the second window of the DRS, for the DRS.
Alexis Beast very close now, and of course they're going to be coming up to the detection point here. There was a mistake from the Red Bull of Speedy Gunner. It doesn't seem that Red Bull has damage, but potentially those softs just really running out of steam. But he's well off the back of that pack now. But of course, Alexis Beast is going to have DRS here, as he was able to bring that gap rather a lot closer. But of course, not close enough. Kevin Cal, meanwhile, not really pulling much of a gap to Crooner, or at least not as much as he would have liked. Of course, Kevin Cal led for a while in the Group 1 yesterday after an early safety car. So definitely keep an eye on him to be challenging throughout the rest of this race. And of course, he'd be definitely wanting to take and to have more of an advantage on those mediums than he apparently has at Crooner, as that gap still at about a second and a half between the Mercedes and the Ferrari.
Yeah, I think what's going to be interesting now is Viperize and Kendricks and the group around Bamboo Vegas. They're all very close to each other. Let's see what happens there.
As there is Speedy Gunner out of the race, so there's our second retirement, so potentially some damage on that car. But of course, Bamboo Vegas struggling to get past Jim, it seems. So potentially some damage to that Alpine as well, just maybe the tire disadvantage at the moment, as the mediums are very, very strong around the Silverstone circuit in these overcast and not exactly warm conditions. And you can see those cars blasting through cops, all chasing after James. That'll be an interesting battle to watch throughout the rest of this race. Of course, both Kendricks and Viperize have that DRS advantage over Alexis Beast that Alexis Beast just does not quite have on Crooner, as those softs really just seem to start to fall off as that gap has been brought down to about 3.5 tenths between the Red Bull and the McLaren.
Yeah, lap 6, Alexis definitely loses a lot of grip now on his soft tires. I'm wondering if he's going to come to the pits now, because he sees he doesn't gain anything on Crooner anymore. Kendricks and Viperize close the gap to him within one lap, and I think he's better off with going into the pits this lap.
Certainly expect that Red Bull to dive into the pits before too much longer. Of course, the gap to Crooner up ahead is 1.3 seconds, so that Ferrari is still in sight of the Red Bull, but of course, a number of cars behind Alexis Beast that he has to be aware of. So don't be surprised as soon as that Red Bull gets we see him into the pit lane, potentially try to make a nice little undercut work on the rest of the field.
Yeah, we gotta keep an eye on Tommy here, while also Kendricks is very close to Alexis after the F.
Here they are through Maggots and Beckett's, that gap at about 6 tenths, but it's really important to get that clean exit. And Kendrick's very strong exit there, course, he's going to look to the inside. It's going to be defended by Alexis, and there was very close. It was very close to contact there. Of course, Kendrick's going to be looking to swoop around the outside. He's going to run wide there. And Alexis, meanwhile, is going to dive into the pit lane to swap off of those soft compound tires early on.
Tommy XXC managed to get past Dodeligo on the mediums. I think he used his tire advantage there. Oh, and yeah, that's Alexis in the pits.
Yep. So let's see what tires that Red Bull comes out on. He will come out on hard compound tires. Of course, those can certainly last until the end of this British Grand Prix, as beautifully done by yesterday's winner of Speed Queen, who managed to take hard tires at 25 laps after getting caught up in a lap 1 incident and going on to win that race. So definitely give that race a watch if you have the time later on. And of course, stay tuned as well for Group 3 action later on this afternoon and evening, just kind of depending on where you all are situated. So definitely stay tuned for all that, as Viper Eyes runs a little bit wide there on the exit of Cops and receives his first 3-second time penalty of this race. But of course, he's very close to the back of Kendrick's. So have to see how much that gap can be brought down.
He's coming closer. Is he going for the lead? Not yet.
Takes a peek down the inside, but thinks better of it.
But he forced Kendrick to take a wider line. Coming closer to him now. Also, Tommy XXC didn't manage to pull away from Dodeligo after overtaking him. I guess Dodeligo uses his ERS now to stay behind him. And the older the mediums of Tommy XXC become, the more the advantage turns on Dodeligo's side.
It does seem like the hards may be starting to find some life, because the gap out at the front between Kevin Cal and Crooner is up to about 2 seconds, but it seemed to hold there for the past 2 laps or so. Of course, lap number 9 of 26. So just my math is right. I believe that means there's going to be 17 to go at the end of this lap, and of course, going through Cops now. Just seems that the Mercedes just using those tires just potentially a little bit better and a little bit more stable than the Ferrari is on those hards. So definitely keep an eye on that gap, especially as we start to approach that pit stop phase around laps 12 to 15.
Yeah, the hards, they are very sturdy on Silverstone. Like on 60-70%, you can still do pretty quick laps. And yeah, just I didn't know that Speed Queen did 26 laps. No, what did you say? 25 laps? Or
no, Speed Queen was able to make 25 laps work on those hard compound tires. There's certainly it was great tire management by our Group 1 championship leader as we hit the halfway point in that group as well. But definitely keep an eye on potentially some drivers such as Alexis looking to pull that long stint on those hard compound tires, and essentially just trying to jump a lot of the field. Of course, you lose a significant amount of time in the pit lane. Of course, a bit of a slower speed limit than a lot of other circuits at 37 miles an hour in the pit lane. And of course, it is a rather pit lane as well, so definitely keep an eye on how that could affect a lot of our drivers, as we are here on lap 10. Of course, Omega there at the back receiving another 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane. Definitely keep an eye on those penalties as well, but the gap at the front has come down by about a tenth or two on this lap, so could that indicate that these hards are really starting to come into their own against the mediums?
That could be the turning point, lap 10. Just 2 laps before the mediums are going to start coming into the pit. What I'm watching here is Alexis B.
Diving into the pit lane here on lap 10, so the leader diving into the pit lane very early.
Is he gonna go for a 3-stop maybe and hope for a safety car later on? Or I don't know.
This doesn't appear to be the case, is that Mercedes does put on a set of hard compound
Yeah,
tires,
nice.
so I'd be surprised if he's not looking to go to the end of this race. But we'll definitely have to keep an eye on the gap between him and Crooner, especially as the hard compound runners dive into the pit lane. But of course, Crooner now with free air to be able to push as he pleases. Yellow flags. Who is that? What was the yellow flags there for? That may have been for Oreo in the McLaren, though I'm not quite sure.
Now he was behind Kim
Actually,
before,
no, it
right?
was, or no, I don't believe it was Kevin Cal. But certainly there seemed to be some sort of incident there. Of course, Kevin Cal is going to need a little bit of time to get those hards right into the operating window that he'll want them in.
Was it Caprod maybe? Who lost some positions. Anyways, we have Kevin Cal now only 3.5 seconds ahead of Alexis. And Alexis, if we remember, he was behind Crooner before, wasn't he? So, and he started on the softs, so he's gonna have older hards in the end. But we gonna have to watch where Crooner is gonna come out when he pits, because Alexis is able to do quicker laps than Crooner now, because he got much fresher hards and maybe manages to undercut him. Tommy Bree in the pits. Oreo African in the pits. Kevin Cal is on the back of Formula already, Formula Jonah, and he shouldn't have any problem getting past him. While Viper is still behind Kendricks. Kendricks in P2 for the moment. But there are only 2 people who will come out ahead of him. And that's Kevin Cal and Alexis Beach, if I'm not mistaken. And maybe Tommy Bree. But it seems like the mediums already lose their grip since many people come into the pit lanes. Maybe they saw yesterday in the Group 1 race how good those hard tires are and how long they last. And going for the hard tires earlier to try some undercuts. And we got some lags there. I'm hoping that the lobby will stay stable. Kevin Cal is past Formula Jonah. Alexis Beast coming closer to him, gonna pass him too. And we are waiting for the medium runners to come into the pit lane. So Kendricks, I suppose, is on his in-lap, if you want to call it like that. Viper is right behind him. Let's see if somebody tries to stay out a lap longer, or if they come into the pit lane at once.
Alright,
Bumblebee.
this now? Okay, I think that works.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yep. Dang technology. Alright, but yeah, keeping an eye on the battle. It will be Viperize diving into play now, as opposed to Kendrick, who is going to stay out that extra lap. So Viperize is going to be looking to make that undercut work. Meanwhile, behind, James is going to make a move as well, as here comes Vegas up into that battle. Yellow flags, that's for a spun Red Bull. That is Alexis Beats. So Alexis Beats with a mistake. Now get him back up, so he's going to lose load time there. So that's going to be very disappointing from the Red Bull, who was showing very, very strong early on.
Now let's see where
Viperize, meanwhile,
Viperize comes out.
He'll definitely come out behind his teammate, but it does seem that he'll come out ahead now of Tommy BR. So the Mercedes duo showing very nicely in this feature, and he'll also come out ahead of Formula Jonah moment, and he is going to stay ahead as James able to make a move. Tommy XXT, but the Alpine able to fight back. The Aston Martin going to look up the inside and could have a potential run down into Cop, so not quite going to have have a move there, and he's going to be under threat from Bamboo Vegas.
Yeah, that was very unlucky for Alexis. On the deciding lap where Viperize comes out and where it was decided if Alexis manages to undercut him. Or was he actually ahead of Viperize before?
If I'm not mistaken, Alexis Beast was ahead of Viperize at least at one point.
Already, right?
Before boxing as Tommy XXC and James made contact there. As it seemed to be almost a bit of a pit maneuver as Tommy XXC was spun there. The Alpine is going to take the time to dive into the pit lane, but will receive a 5-second time penalty. So bad to worse for that Alpine. As though Ligo as well, Haas dives into the pit lane. That's the first of our hard compound pitters for Haas. But he also receives a 5-second time penalty here as we start lap number 15 as Kevin Cal sets a new fast lap for Mercedes. He's up into 6th after overtaking those two cars that just dove into the pit lane. Alexis Beast as well, as you can see, showing a lot of pace there, is setting, actually beating Kevin's fastest lap on that slightly older set of hard compound tires. Bruno, meanwhile, has run fairly comfortably since the start of the race. Of course, started from pole and lost it early to Kevin Cal, who had that tire advantage off the start. Bruno, meanwhile, is going to stay out on these hard compound tires. Could we potentially see a hard soft look from the current leader? As Kendricks as well is going to dive into the pit lane. Starting lap 16 now. As we do have James and Bamboo Vegas battling for third on track. Hendricks, meanwhile, is going to slap on a set of soft compound tires. So,
wow.
Are we going to see for Kendricks?
Wow, okay, 10 laps on the soft. I don't know if
on
he
the
knows.
soft is going to certainly put him in a late puncture, but he could certainly have a lot of pace. So for how long? You certainly can't tell, so definitely keep an eye on that McLaren as this continues. Of course, he's going to be very strong, especially compared to some of those hard compound runners. But of course, that relative pace is going to be really, really important.
Came out right behind Viperize. Wow, but going 10 laps on the soft, that's a challenge. Let's see how he's going to manage that.
Of course, jumping up to the leader, it's about a 16-second gap back to James, who was defending from Bamboo Vegas in the Alpine on those rather old mediums. So could James as well but be potentially looking at a similar strategy and be looking for a medium soft as our leader does dive into the pit lane?
Now is the crucial moment. Kevin Kell was behind 27 seconds. I don't know if that's enough to undercut Kruner.
We'll have to keep an eye on that. Quick stop from the Ferrari pit crew. And so we'll definitely have to jump on board with Kevin Cal, who I believe should come out ahead of Kruner's Ferrari, as he does set a new fast lap on the race at a very crucial time, and he will take back at least the net lead after Bamboo Vegas does dive into the pit lane. But of course, that gap still at about 2 seconds. And of course, Kruner with fresher medium compound tires is going to be a significant threat to Kevin Cal trying to go on to win this race.
Yeah, now the cards have been mixed again. Now we got Crooner with fresh mediums behind Kevin Kell, who is on 6 laps old hards already. But he managed to undercut and pull out a gap of 2.6 seconds, 2.7 so far. Let's see if Crooner can close that gap again. While Kendricks is all over the back of Viperize on his fresh softs, he's gonna have to make some... he's gonna have to overtake some people, yeah.
Crooner, though, has done a great job at ERS management as he's sitting at about 80% ERS as it currently stands, so he'll have plenty of battery to play with as this race continues. And, of course, once those mediums get fired up, should be pulling up very comfortably back to Kevin Kell in front. But there is Bamboo Vegas diving into the pit lane. Of course, he'll fall down the order, so it's going to be very interesting to see what tire choice the Alpine goes with.
Alexis with the move on Formula Jonah now. I'm wondering if Jonah is coming into the pits now. No, he's on 16 laps medium. Wow.
It'll be interesting to see if Jonah could potentially take those actually, Jonah, I think, almost certainly will have to pit at some point, but it is Kevin Kell now back in the race lead here on lap number 18.
Yeah, and the gap came down already to 1.9 seconds. Can we look at the last lap they did? I don't think so, right?
I don't believe look at that last lap data, but that gap certainly has come down significantly. It was about 2 seconds at about this point last lap. It's now down to about 1.7. So Crooner really starting to get those mediums fired up. Of course, Crooner for that Ferrari outfit got incredibly unlucky last time out in Singapore, especially due to a late safety car coming out that allowed everybody behind him to get a free pit stop except for him, which led to him falling down the order. So he's going to be looking to make up for that lack of luck last weekend. And of course, that gap down to about a second and a half, 130.9 from Kevin Kell, but a 130.2 from Crooner, so about 7/10 faster the Ferrari was that lap. So that gap going to come down very, very quickly.
Chimp in the comments thinks Kendricks can manage it on those tires unless he gets super unlucky. I hope for him, because he's on an amazing run on P4. If he manages to get on the podium, that would be unbelievable. Like, he literally started from last, I guess, or P16, and we have 17 drivers.
The yellow flag there was for James in the Aston Martin, who had a spin, I believe, at turn 2. So a mistake there puts the Aston Martins at the back. So just not a great showing today for the Aston Martin outfit. Of course, Jonah going to have a shot at potentially stealing a fastest lap point away from a couple of other drivers and potentially trying to keep Aston Martin in that championship hunt. Of course, James and Jonah both typically very quick, and I believe Aston Martin does sit third in the constructors as it stands, so certainly not without a shout. But Crooner now within a second of Kevin Kell, so that Ferrari pulling closer and closer, and still with plenty of ERS to work with.
And Kendricks made the move. Kendricks made the move on Viperize.
As he was able to get that move done, and he's going to hold the position for the moment. Of course, Viperize is still going to be able to put the pressure on him, but it is Kendricks now up into third on those soft compound tires. Was going to have to last a long time if he wants to hold on that final podium position.
Yeah, he's on 4 laps now. I don't think he's going to be able to pull out a gap, but he got 70% ERS. If he uses that now, he could pull out a gap, but I guess he's gonna save it for defending.
Comes the Mercedes and Viperize right back up into third.
I think he thinks it's smarter to stay behind and try it on the last laps again. Or maybe he knows he doesn't make it on the podium on P3, and he just tries to stay behind Viperize in the DRS to save his P4 from Tommy Pre, who's also behind him, and who's gonna have the tire advantage soon, as he's on hard tires, which we know lasts very long, and you can still do very quick times late in the race.
Meanwhile, that gap at the front now down to 0.2 of a second.
And
so
Kruner,
very close there, and you can see that red light blinking in the back of the Mercedes, of course, indicating that he is harvesting ERS. And if you jump on board, you can see that Mercedes only at about 8%. Kruner, meanwhile, with 70% ERS, so plenty to play with. So it'll be very interesting to see how these two drivers. Kevin Cal as well, going to be needing to conserve a little bit of fuel. He's just slightly under the limit there, which certainly shouldn't be an issue, as we will be 5 laps to go next time around. And Kruner pulling closer, but not quite able to make that move stick.
He's waiting for the right moment. I mean, it's in his hands. He's on the fresh tires. He's in the DRS gap. He has all the ERS he needs. He decides when he overtakes, basically.
Very close there through Kopp's that gap, under 1/4 of a second. Of course, Ferrari going to have to be contending with a little bit of dirty air, but with a good run there through Maggots and Beckett's, that gap just a little bit closer, and a really good exit from Kruner. He's going to have a really good chance. He's going to go right down the inside, and the Ferrari is going to breeze past the Mercedes, and it's going to take over the race lead of the British Grand Prix.
And I think he's gonna use that ERS now to pull away. And Kevin Cal's last chance is now to stay with him, wait for the mediums to get worse, to lose their grip, and then try it again in the last laps. Let's see.
5 laps to go now.
Yeah, let's see how Kruner is now using his ERS or not. Let's see what he thinks.
We'll have to keep an eye on what he chooses to do here.
He doesn't use it yet. He uses it
there
now.
There it is. And he's going to start to really pull away, even though Kevin Cal has the assistance of DRS. Kruner are going to increase that gap as they make their way through that first DRS zone.
Kendrick's plan, if that is his plan, what I theorized about before, is working, because Tommy Bree didn't manage to close the gap. Kendricks is still in the DRS window of Viperize. Maybe he's still hoping for the move on P3, but I think he's aware of that he rather needs to defend his P4.
Also, but taking a look at penalties, however, of course, Kendrick's going to be looking to keep within about 3 seconds of Viperize, who does have 6 seconds of time penalties as of this point, compared to Kendrick's 3. So Kendricks is going to still be struggling on those softs the later we get in that stint, but certainly is going to still have a very decent shot at that last podium spot and netting Mercedes some really, really good points.
Right, I totally forgot. I didn't see Viperize has 6 seconds already.
As yellow flag there, that's for Bamboo Vegas. So another really uncharacteristic mistake from the championship leader with a spin there, potentially due to contact. Again, just based on missing that incident, just not really able to tell quite what happened. But of course, he's going to stay P7, but is going to be under threat from his teammate of Tommy XXC.
Who gets another time penalty, adding up to 8 seconds now, if I'm not mistaken. So Tommy basically is not even close to Bamboo.
Of course, the pack's really starting to spread out a little bit. Of course, Kruner pulling that gap to up to 2 seconds now from Kevin Cal behind. So Ferrari lapping very strongly here. And is probably going to be looking to just continue to increase that gap. Kendricks, meanwhile, still sticking with Viperize. Definitely keep an eye on that gap as we make our way through Maggots and Beckett's. Not really coming down all that much. So Kendrick's still having pretty comfortable levels of grip in that McLaren, it at least appears. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. Though that gap does seem to increase a little bit, especially through some of those higher speed corners.
Let's see. Maybe we can follow his lap a little and see how his grip is doing. 8 laps old now. They should be on like 50% at least. I tried them out in practice a little bit for a long run because I also was thinking about the idea of using them, but I found their grip disappears so quick. For me it wasn't an option. Kendrick shows that option and he seems very successful with it so far.
It does seem very, very comfortable with it. Does seem to be holding that McLaren together very nicely. His yellow flag in sector 1, that's again for an Aston Martin. So I believe that was James. That's James again. Just not being able to hold that through turns 1 and 2 and just losing that back end. We're still sitting on board McLaren of Kendrick's. Still within that 1 second gap. So holding very comfortably to Viperize. The McLaren doesn't seem very fighty either, as potentially even a little bit of a mistake there from Viperize ahead, losing the back end. Is just going to keep Kendrick in touch, so he's managing those softs very, very nicely.
Definitely the driver of the day for me. Kendrick's here on P4 currently with the penalties P3. If he managed to not get another 3-second penalties. But he has only 1 more lap to go, or 2 laps actually. Crooner is right. Is it 2 laps to go? Yeah.
2 laps to go here at this British Grand Prix, and the gap up at the front up now to 2.5 seconds. So Crooner really just continuing to stretch the legs of that Ferrari and just continuing to increase that gap, especially with the help of those medium compound tires. Of course, he was your winner for the spring race and just lost that P1 early.
Tommy XXC pitted for the softs again. I'm wondering if he just wants to steal the fastest lap.
Potentially maybe looking for that fastest lap, or potentially got some damage
James
there.
as well.
Certainly interesting, as there is James in the pit lane. So yeah, I think it's just a number of drivers looking to steal that fastest lap point.
Let's see if they change the front wing. No, they don't.
To take it away from. So yeah, potentially just looking for those extra to steal that extra point.
Jim
away from somebody else and for the bragging rights.
Jim is going for the move on African.
Of course, that's for the last of the point scoring position. So definitely they're going to be brawling over that last point, especially as they have about a lap and a half to go as Crooner coming around to start his final lap of the race. Hendricks as well receiving a 3-second time penalty as he's going to dive into the pit lane. Did he have a puncture?
No.
He's diving into the pit lane. No, so McLaren going to lose so many
I don't
points
see any
now.
puncture on the car.
There's
Do
no
you?
visible puncture. So perhaps it just popped up quickly? But it's certainly confusing as to why the McLaren would choose to pit on this last lap, because I certainly would think he could have gone to the end, but after a really great drive, seems that he's just not trusting enough of those softs to go the rest of the distance, so he's going to fall and going to have to be chasing after his teammate and Jim again just for a point or two. So that's certainly a confusing decision. But regardless, it is Crooner now through Maggots and Beckett's for the final time. It's been a comfortable and confident drive for the Ferrari. Of course, losing that P1 at the start of this feature race, but has had a stellar drive since then.
Jim
been
still
one of our
fighting.
More unlucky drivers. He's been one of our more unlucky drivers throughout the course of Season 4 here in LSR Group 2. Most of all, last time out in Singapore, but he's going to come out of the final couple of corners, and it will be Crooner winning the British Grand Prix here in Group 2. Great drive from the Ferrari. Kevin Cal, meanwhile, will come home to finish in second, and it will be Mercedes 2-3 as Viperize going to come across the line to finish in third. Tommy BR, with a great drive in the feature race, is actually going to be promoted up into P3 after those penalties are assessed. So Ferrari will take up the first and third spots on the podium. So a great day for them. Lexus Beast, meanwhile, comes to finish 5th. Bamboo Vegas will come in 6th. Ligo then will finish 7th, pending time penalties, which will promote his teammate Kevprod up ahead of him, so it'll be a Haas 7-8. Oreo Hafrican now will come to the line, but of course he'll lose a position to Jim. Kendricks, meanwhile, after a great early drive, is going to end up out of the points after boxing there late, and then the rest of your finishers will be Formula Jonah, Tommy XXC, who will receive that fastest lap award, though it won't matter, so it'll be Tommy XXC in 12th, Jonah in 13th, and of course James, I believe, going to be trying to steal that fastest lap award, again, just for the brownie points. But of course, here comes the Aston Martin to the line. He'll be 14th at the end of the day, but of course, congratulations to Crooner on the victory. Great drive from him. Of course, presented by Lenovo. Sadly, we're not sponsored yet, but if you're watching and are interested in sponsoring, let us know. But of course, driver of the day, that award is going to go to Tommy VR after a great drive in the feature.
Yeah, great drive of Crooner, great fight with Kevin Kell. But how tragic is this? I don't know, F in the chat for Kendricks on the last lap. I can't believe it. He had such a great race. Losing it on the last lap, we don't know how. If it was a puncture, he was managing those softs incredibly. He would have deserved driver of the day to me, but yeah, lost it all on the last lap. That's F1.
Of course, in a similar way to how we saw at Silverstone this past year, that's a Ferrari celebrating on the top step of the podium. It was Sainz in real life. It's Crooner here in LSR. So, of course, taking a look now at the order of for the weekend, and it's Crooner taking 33 points, so just one off of that max offering. Kevin Kell, meanwhile, walks away with 25 points. Viper Eyes comes in third for the weekend with 16, with Tommy BR coming away with 15. Bamboo Vegas will walk away with 14 points, which means that battle up at the top of the championship is going to get even tighter between Kevin Kell and Bamboo Vegas. Kevprod and Alexides come 6th and 7th, with both with 11 points. Ligo with 6. Kendricks gets 3. Jim, 111, nets 2 points. And Oreo African will net 1 point. So, of course, thanks as always for joining us for this British Grand Prix. Definitely look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks, as we'll be off next weekend. But of course, when we return, should be ready to get back underway with the return of the French Grand Prix here in LSR, which certainly has a very interesting history here in Group 2. So definitely subscribe so that way you're notified when we go back live, and definitely stay tuned for Group 3 action later today. But of course, as always, thanks for joining us. I don't know if, Breach, you got anything you want to close with, but of course, thank you to everybody, as always, for jumping in.
Yeah, thank you all for watching. Thank you guys in the comments for your opinions. It was a nice race, it was fun to watch. See you all again in the next race.
Alright, have a great one.